Hi, and welcome to a 7-part series entitled How is Menopause Impacting You at Work? How is menopause impacting you at work? So, have you ever walked into a meeting and forgot why you're there? Maybe zoned out in mid-presentation? You're not alone, and you're not broken. Many women are experiencing this. This is what's called perimenopause and menopause brain fog. Many women are experiencing exactly what you have experienced, and that includes 1, word finding difficulties. You know that thing, but you cannot remember it. 2, slower processing speed. So somebody says something and you ought to have said something, and you remember a while after that, oh, I should have said this or that. Also, there's difficulties multitasking and almost a feeling that you are in a constant state of clutter, just brain clutter, mental clutter. Those are the 4 main symptoms that women report when they are in perimenopause and menopause regarding their brain function. So the recall, the processing speed, difficulties multitasking, and this constant clutter, brain clutter that's going on. So you're not alone and you're not broken, and many women are experiencing exactly what you are experiencing. It's what's called brain fog. So what's the reason for it? You're not broken. It is a chemical shift that's happening. And that shift, we're going to find out why it's happening. So 1, estrogen is a neuromodulator. That means that estrogen modifies how your brain processes information. So it modulates neurotransmitters, i.e. the chemicals in the brain. One of them is serotonin, which helps with your mood. The other is dopamine, that is helps with motivation and happiness or joy, satisfaction. And then there's acetylcholine, which is good for memory and recall. So those 3, there's a lot more, but those 3 are usually impacted when we are facing or dealing with brain fog related to perimenopause and menopause. Also, estrogen modulates blood supply to the brain, and in this case we are talking about the hippocampus, which is the main hub for your thinking, for your memory and learning and recall. So estrogen modulates that. So then when estrogen drops off, the neurotransmitters drop off, i.e. we do not have those chemicals present as they should. So then we start to get problems with mood, pleasure, and learning, mood, pleasure, and learning. And then there is the blood supply to the brain, and of course, if the brain is not getting the right blood supply, then we know about it. So, what then happens? What is actually happening when we are in this state of brain fog? So we know that the chemical reason for it is that there's an estrogen drop. So the symptoms that we experience are symptoms of difficulties recall. So we are slower in conversation. We feel easily distracted, and difficulties concentrating, difficulties multitasking, and completing tasks. So we start one thing, we start another. Maybe there's something baking in the oven, you forget all about it, and off you go doing something else. Or or just really a lack of motivation. So what happens then is that we have this tug of war between fogginess, frustration, focus, and function. So we are foggy, we are frustrated, but we need to focus and function. So we are in this state of a tug of war. And then more onto that, just to add on to that, sleep becomes a problem. And when sleep becomes a problem, we have less of the restful, restorative sleep that helps with memory consolidation. So we are more patchy. And then there's also when we, and one of the reasons for anxiety related to menopause is something called GABA modulation. GABA modulation drops. Estrogen helps with GABA modulation, and GABA modulation, if the GABA cells or the GABA neurotransmitters cells are not modulated, we have anxiety, we have panic attacks, we have second guessing ourselves, lack of confidence in who we are and what we know that we can do. And then and also, if we are not sleeping well, if we are in a state of constant stress, cortisol goes up, and cortisol can impair how your hippocampus, which is your memory learning center, functions. Then so that means then that, thanks for joining me, and that means then that we have a problem with mood, we have a problem with anxiety, and we have a problem with a general functioning because we are not sleeping well, we are anxious, and this cortisol has become a problem. So we have just talked about how you're impacted at work, how menopause impacts you at work. And we've talked about how it impacts you in many ways, including word finding, slower processing speed. So once you already know of, you cannot remember, or you're just really slow remembering that, difficulties multitasking, and this constant sense of clutter, fogginess, you are not clear. And we say that the reason for that is, the main reason for that is that your estrogen drops. And when estrogen drops, there is a reduction in the neurotransmitters, the blood supply to the hippocampus, and also the other modulators that we have talked about. So what can you do? One is reflect on what's happening, and really reflection on what's happening encourages conversation, and with that encourages support. So, and the point, remember, is you're not alone. Every woman who's perimenopause or menopausal is suffering exactly the same. So that means that really start the conversation going. Start the conversation with your colleagues, with your HR, with your organization, so that you can get the support that you need. And what can you do to help yourself? One is understand what is the role of your sex hormones, because sex hormones are not only functioning just for sex, as we call them, sex hormone. Actually, we have receptors of estrogen from head to toe, and in this case, in your brain, we are talking about the prefrontal cortex, and we are talking about the hippocampus. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that learns, adapts, and recall. That is the hippocampus. I beg your pardon. The hippocampus is the part of the brain that modulates learning and adaptation and recall. So I'm gonna do this and I'm learning something new. So we find that we're not learning as quick as if it's a new system at work, we're feeling left behind by the young people because we are not learning as fast as we could. We're not adapting to the new system. The new changing environments really stress us, and we end up leaving work earlier. So reflect on that, and also know what your hormones do for you. know what the benefits, the risk factors for having these hormones are, and then speak to somebody who is in the understanding of the risk benefits for your hormones. Don't just suffer in silence thinking that that's it, I'm gonna hand in my resignation and off I go. Advocate for yourself, to your HR, to your colleagues. Just self-advocate is the word, self-advocate. And also exercise, because exercise improves blood flow to the brain. Reduce your inflammatory foods, so the processed foods, eating all the time. Avoid that. Adapt intermittent fasting if at all possible based on your medical history. But again, speak to somebody who understands intermittent fasting. There's a lot of information about that now. And also increase on your omega-3s and the B vitamins if you haven't, or if you have a restricted diet, make sure that your diet is anti-inflammatory. And of course, there's the sleep hygiene, but women say that no matter what I do, I am not sleeping. And the reason for that is that your GABA receptors are not being modulated. And GABA is that switch that switches off so that your brain can stop firing all the time so that you can power down and sleep. So, and one of the reasons for that is the withdrawal from allopregnanolone, which is a product of the natural breakdown product of progesterone. And progesterone is only produced when you ovulate. So when we get to the state of not ovulating all the time in perimenopause or every month, or not ovulating at all because we're in menopause and we have run out of eggs, then we are in a state of withdrawal from GABA. So we end up being anxious and cannot sleep well, can't get to sleep, we feel tired but wired. So thank you for watching this, and it's gonna be a 7-part series on how menopause is impacting you at work. So on our website, www.purity.health, I have put an event there for menopause in the workplace. Menopause in the workplace. And guess what? This event is free of charge. So if you want to know, it's only a 30-minute presentation. And if you want to know how to address how menopause impacts you at work, then join that. So it's on the top hand right side. On the top hand right side, you see a home, book online, and events. I think you click on the more, then you see events, and then you see the menopause in the workplace event. It's coming, and I want to empower you to be able to thrive, to do well in your work, and so that you know that you're not alone, you know that you're not broken. It's just a chemical shift that can be fixed, and also so that you can advocate for yourself for maybe, if possible, flexible deadlines and working conditions at work. So there you go. We are coming with menopause in the workplace, and thank you for joining me. And I will see you tomorrow as we progress on how is menopause impacting you in the workplace, because we spend 1/3 of our life at work, 8 hours for most of us, and then we come home for another 8 or whatever hours, and most of that we are asleep. So actually most of the time we are at work, and we need to address that. So thank you for joining me, and I've got a lot more coming, but stay tuned in, and don't forget to get onto the menopause in the workplace event on our website. I'll put the link down here, and it is free. It's only 30 minutes, and see you then. Bye bye.